So my dad died on a Tuesday. By Thursday, my 3 siblings who hadn't spoken to me in 15 years were literally crying at my door. Why? The will left our commercial property worth $200,000 entirely in my name. I was at my office when the lawyer called. "Miss Anna, we need to discuss your father's inheritance." My heart sank not from grief. I'd already cried for 3 days straight, but from curiosity. Dad was always secretive about money. "Your family home goes to your stepmother as expected, but the commercial building on Maple Street, worth approximately $200,000, is entirely in your name." I nearly dropped my coffee. That building was Dad's pride and joy. 3 rental units bringing in $2,000 monthly. Lucas, Marina, and Raphael always talked like it was theirs by right. "Are you sure? Just my name?" "Absolutely. And there's an attached letter that says, for Anna, the only one who never asked me for anything, but was always there when I needed her. Here's the thing, for 15 years, I was treated like the family black sheep. You know that studious daughter parents find weird because she prefers books over parties? That was me. Lucas was the athlete, Marina the princess, Raphael the spoiled baby. I was just Anna, the one with straight A's who never got congratulations. The one who left home at 18 and built a life alone. I became an entrepreneur, have my own consulting business, my own apartment, paid off car. But to them, I was still the weird daughter who thought she was better than the family. 48 hours after the funeral, they were at my door. Lucas with red eyes, Marina clutching a dirty tissue, Raphael trying to look grief-stricken. "Anna, we need to talk about this injustice," Marina said, voice shaking. "Dad was senile his last few years. This will doesn't reflect his real wishes." Lucas added, "You were always the favorite daughter, Anna. We know that. But $200,000 is too much money for one person." I let them in, served coffee, and listened for an hour about family unity and fair division. They'd even calculated it out, $50,000 each. If you subscribe, it's because these stories show that justice exists, even when it takes 15 years to arrive. Everyone deserves to see brave people taking control of their own lives. So I did something they never expected. I hired a private investigator to look into each of their lives. But what I discovered about my siblings over the next 3 days will absolutely shock you. After they left my house that Thursday, I sat on my couch for 2 hours straight, staring at the lawyer's business card. 15 years. 15 years without a birthday call, without a "how are you" when I posted professional achievements on Instagram. But now, with $200,000 on the line, I was suddenly family again. Friday morning, I called Ricardo Mendes, a private investigator I'd used for some business cases. "Ricardo, I need a complete investigation on 3 people. Financial situation, debts, legal issues, addictions, everything. Family members?" he asked, experienced enough to know. Unfortunately, while waiting for the report, I started remembering signs I'd ignored. Lucas always posted photos at expensive restaurants but never mentioned work. Marina had sold her house last year but claimed it was to live closer to mom. Raphael would disappear for weeks, coming back skinny and agitated. I remember when I was 12 and won a state math medal. I came home beaming, holding that golden trophy. Dad looked at it for 2 seconds and said, "That's nice, honey." Then Lucas came home with a C+ in PE and got a barbecue celebration. At 16, I got a full scholarship to engineering. The family celebrated at McDonald's. When Marina got accepted to an expensive private college for education, they threw a party for 50 people. I never understood why I was treated differently. Was it because I looked more like my biological mother, who died when I was 5? Was it because I questioned things instead of accepting everything passively? Monday, Ricardo called. "Anna, you're gonna want to sit down for this. Lucas, your older brother, he owes $58,000 to loan sharks. Online sports betting. His house is in his wife's name because he's had 2 garnishment orders. In the last 6 months, he's borrowed money from 8 different people." My stomach churned. Lucas, the successful one who always posted photos of his architecture office, was broke from gambling addiction. There's more. Last week, he went to your father's house 3 times. Neighbors confirmed he always left carrying things. Marina's more complicated. Ricardo continued. "She's not just in debt. She's desperate. Her husband filed for divorce 4 months ago when he discovered she'd spent their entire family's savings on online resale products, pyramid schemes, cosmetics, clothes. She owes $10,000 to suppliers. I remembered Marina's dozens of Instagram stories selling makeup, supplements, designer clothes, always with that speech about female independence and entrepreneurship. She's living in a rented studio apartment and is 2 months behind. Car was repossessed last week. Anna, your sister is literally struggling to survive. And Ricardo paused. This one's the worst of all. He's been addicted to cocaine for at least 2 years. Has in $20,000 debt to dealers. Hasn't worked in 8 months. My head started pounding. The family baby, who'd always been treated like a prince, was a hardcore drug addict. But the worst part, Anna, is that in recent months he was stealing from his own father. Mr. Pedro filed 2 police reports for theft, but always dropped the charges the next day. Rafael took jewelry from your late mother, a TV, even tools from the garage. I hung up and sat on my living room floor. Everything made sense now. Why Dad left everything just to me. Why he'd been more distant with the other 3 in recent years. He knew everything. The letter attached to the will wasn't about favoritism. It was about protection. Dad knew that if he left the inheritance to all 4 children, that $200,000 would be sucked dry by debts, addictions, and irresponsibility within months. He didn't give me the inheritance because I was the favorite. He gave it to me because I was the only one who wouldn't waste it. That night, Marina texted me, Anna, we scheduled a family meeting for tomorrow at p.m. at stepmom's house. Let's resolve this inheritance issue once and for all. Dad couldn't have wanted to leave the family in poverty. I looked at the investigation report on my desk. They had no idea what I'd discovered. So I made a decision that would change our family forever. But then I discovered something even more shocking that made me reconsider everything. Tuesday, 6:45 p.m. I was sitting in my car outside my stepmother's house, holding that investigation report. 3 thick folders with the truth about my siblings. My hand was shaking not from nerves, but from this weird mix of sadness and power. Donna Miriam opened the door with that forced smile she'd always given me. Anna, dear, so good you came. They're waiting in the living room. The house still smelled like coffee and corn cake from childhood Sundays. But now it felt smaller, quieter. Dad's photos were everywhere, him playing soccer with Lucas, braiding Marina's hair, teaching Rafael to ride a bike. Of me, just one graduation photo tucked in the corner of the bookshelf. Lucas was on the main couch, trying to look like the family head as always. Marina was fidgeting with her phone, nervous. Rafael was drumming his fingers on the table. That agitation I now knew was withdrawal symptoms. Anna, Lucas started before I even sat down. We talked and reached a fair agreement. $50,000 for each one. You keep 52. Everyone wins. I sat in Dad's old armchair and placed the 3 folders on the coffee table. Interesting math, Lucas. $50,000 each. Exactly what you owe to loan sharks. The silence was instant. Lucas went pale. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the $58,000 you lost on online betting over the last 2 years. About the 3 times you went to Dad's house the week before he died. About the things you took from there. Marina stopped fidgeting with her phone. Rafael stopped drumming his fingers. Anna, you don't know what you're saying. Lucas tried to recover, but his voice came out shaky. I opened the first folder. Bet365, DraftKings, FanDuel. Want me to read your betting amounts from the last 6 months? The biggest was $3,800 on a parlay bet you lost. I turned to Marina. And you, my dear entrepreneur sister, $10,000 in debt to pyramid scheme suppliers. 2 months behind on rent. Car repossessed last Friday. Marina started crying. Anna, things got difficult after the divorce. Difficult? I opened the second folder. Or did you spend your entire family's savings on get-rich-quick schemes? Your ex-husband sent me the bank statements, Marina. $12,000 in 6 months. On products you couldn't even sell. Rafael stood up, agitated. This is invasion of privacy. You have no right. Sit down, Rafael. My voice came out firmer than I expected. You really want me to talk about the 2 police reports Dad filed against you? About Mom's diamond earrings you sold for drug money? He collapsed in his chair. His hands were shaking uncontrollably now. 20,000 to dealers, Raphael. 20,000. Do you have any idea what that means? The danger you brought into our father's house? Donna Miriam, who'd been silent in the kitchen, appeared in the doorway. Anna, your father knew about all of this. Everyone looked at her. For the last 2 years, he cried every night. Said he'd failed as a father with 3 of his 4 children. That you guys only looked for him when you needed money or to get you out of trouble. Marina was sobbing now. Lucas stared at the floor. Raphael looked like he was about to be sick. He showed me Lucas's bets on the computer. Told me about Marina's debts. And Raphael. She paused. Raphael almost killed your father with heartbreak when he stole your mother's jewelry. But there's something you don't know. Donna Miriam continued. Pedro made another will, one nobody's seen yet. My heart stopped. What do you mean? She went to the bedroom and came back with a sealed envelope. He asked me to give this only if all 4 of you got together to fight over the inheritance. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. It was a handwritten letter from Dad. My children, if you're reading this, it's because you gathered because of the inheritance. Anna, you were the only one who never disappointed me, but you were also the one I showed the least love to. I apologize for that. Lucas, Marina, Raphael, I loved you too much and that destroyed you. The commercial building is on us because she's the only one who won't waste it. But I also left a savings account with $25,000 for each of the other 3. It's a second chance. Use it wisely or lose it forever. I looked at my siblings, all crying now. For a moment, I felt sorry. Then I remembered the 15 years of rejection, forgotten birthdays, ignored achievements. So now I need to make a decision, I said slowly. Dad left $25,000 for each of you. But there's a condition he didn't write in the letter, and only I can impose. But then I discovered that one of you 3 had lied about something much bigger than money. And that completely changed what I was going to do. Complete silence in the room. 4 pairs of eyes staring at me, waiting. I literally held their $25,000 each in my hands. Dad had given me total power over his second chance. What lie, Anna? Marina was first to break the silence, voice still choked. We told you everything. The debts, the problems. Not a lie, Marina. An omission. I grabbed my phone and showed the screen. Ricardo, my investigator, sent me this afternoon. A pretty interesting video. Lucas leaned forward. What video? Remember the last time you guys came to visit Dad? How long ago? 6 months? It was his 64th birthday. Raphael sniffled, trying to clear his nose. We came, yeah. Stayed all afternoon. You sure did. I pressed play on the video. Mrs. Carmen, the neighbor across the street, has security cameras. She let me borrow the footage from Dad's birthday week. The screen showed the sidewalk in front of the house. Date: August 15th, 2:32 p.m. Dad appeared on the porch alone, looking down the street. He waited for you guys until 5 in the evening. Donna Miriam said he'd prepared a cake, bought soda, even decorated the table with those little flags he loved. Donna Miriam confirmed from the kitchen. He sat on that porch from 2 until almost 6. When he came inside, he said, I think they forgot, Miriam. But you didn't forget, right? I kept playing the video. You guys showed up all right. Look, on screen. 7:47 p.m. 3 cars arriving together. Lucas, Marina, and Raphael getting out hurriedly. You arrived almost at 8 at night. After a party you went to first. You can see the party clothes, Marina in heels, Lucas in a suit. Marina looked down. We had a commitment before. A commitment? My voice came out louder than intended. Your father's 64th birthday was a secondary commitment? The video continued. 8:15 p.m. all 3 leaving the house. 27 minutes. You guys stayed 27 minutes at Dad's birthday. Just enough time to sing happy birthday and leave. Lucas tried to defend himself. Anna, we had to work the next day. Work? I let out a bitter laugh. Lucas, you haven't worked properly in 2 years. Marina, you were unemployed at that time. And Raphael, well, Raphael never worked a day in his life. Donna Miriam appeared in the living room, eyes red. Anna, your father cried that night. He told me they only came because it would be weird not to, but they didn't want to be here. There's more in the video. I skipped to the next part. 2 weeks later, On screen. Lucas arriving alone, leaving with a box. Remember what was in that box, Lucas? He turned red. They were some old tools I borrowed. Tools you sold on Craigslist the same day. $50 for a drill Dad used his whole life. Marina started crying again. Anna, please. I'm not done yet. I showed another clip. Marina. 3 days after Lucas. On screen. Marina leaving with 2 full bags. Mom's clothes, right, Marina? The ones Dad kept in the closet for 15 years. You said it was to preserve the memory, but sold everything at a fancy thrift store for $75. I needed to pay rent, Marina mumbled. And Raphael. When I went to arrange Dad's things, I looked for his antique coin collection. Guess what? Everything was gone. Until the pawn shop owner downtown called offering to sell them back to me. Raphael exploded. He didn't even care about those things anymore. Everything was dusty. Dusty? I stood up from the armchair. Raphael, he showed those coins to everyone who visited. It was his biggest pride. Donna Miriam confirmed. Pedro spent hours cleaning those coins. He knew the story of each one. Silence returned to the room. I looked at the 3 siblings who, in the span of a month, had stolen our father's most precious memories. You want to know why Dad left everything to me? It wasn't favoritism. It was self-defense. I picked up the 3 folders from the table. You didn't lose the inheritance today. You lost it years ago. Every time you treated Dad like a walking ATM. Every time you only showed up when you needed something. Lucas tried one last card. Anna, we're siblings. Family forgives. Family? I interrupted. Real family shows up for birthdays. Family doesn't steal coins from their sick father. Family doesn't sell the tools a man used his whole life to support his house. I opened my purse and took out 3 envelopes, each one with a name written on it. Dad really left $25,000 for each one, but I decided what to do with that money. I placed the envelopes on the table, opened them. But what was inside those envelopes wasn't what they expected. And each of their reactions showed me who they really were. The 3 envelopes sat on the table for a few seconds. Lucas was first to grab his, with that desperate rush of someone who owes a lot of money. Marina held hers with shaking hands. Raphael didn't even move, still staring at the floor. Come on, Raphael, open it, I said, crossing my arms. He picked up the envelope slowly, like it weighed pounds. All 3 opened at the same time. Lucas reacted first. What the hell is this, Anna? Inside his envelope, a photo of the online betting screens and a card with an address. It's the address of a rehabilitation clinic for gambling addicts, Lucas. Best treatment in Tulsa. 3 months fully paid. Are you crazy? I don't need any treatment. You do. And you know how I know? Because yesterday you bet another $500 on a football game. Even knowing you were going to inherit money. You couldn't stop. Marina opened hers and started sobbing louder. Inside, information about a professional administration course and a psychologist's card. 6 months of technical course in financial management, Marina. Plus 6 months of therapy to understand why you get involved in get-rich-quick schemes. Anna, I just wanted to have my independence. Independence isn't built through pyramid schemes, Marina. It's built through knowledge and real work. Raphael still hadn't looked at what was in his envelope. I knew why. Open it, Raphael. He unfolded the paper. An address for a drug rehabilitation clinic. 6 months of inpatient treatment. No, he threw the paper on the table. I'm not checking myself in. You will, or you'll die, Raphael. Do you realize you owe $20,000 to dealers? You think they'll wait forever? Donna Miriam approached. Raphael, dear, your father made me promise I'd take care of you all. This is the only way. And if we don't accept? Lucas asked, still holding the photo of the bets. I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Then you get nothing. $0. And I'll also share everything I discovered about you with the entire family. Marina choked. You wouldn't do that. I would. Aunt Louisa, Uncle Ju, cousins, Dad's friends. Everyone will know how you guys treated him in his final years. Silence returned to the room. I knew I had them cornered, but I didn't feel pleasure in it. I felt a deep sadness, like I was burying 3 people I should love. There's one more condition, I continued. After treatment, you each get $2,500 to restart your lives. Not $25,000, $2,500. $2,500? Lucas exploded. Dad left 25,000. Dad left 25 because he didn't know how you'd waste it. I know. 2,500 is enough to rent a simple apartment, buy clothes for job interviews, and eat for 3 months while looking for work. Marina tried to negotiate. Anna, 2,500 won't even cover my debts. Your debts are your problem, Marina. You created this situation. You solve it. The 2,500 is to start over from zero, not to clean up past mistakes. Raphael finally spoke. Voice weak. What if I can't stay clean? For the first time that night, my tone softened. Then you'll try again, Raphael. As many times as it takes. But trying. Not pretending the problem doesn't exist. He started crying. Not the whiny crying he did as a child to get things. The crying of someone who was, for the first time, seeing the size of the hole they dug. Anna, Donna Miriam called me. Are you sure about this? It's a lot of money for treatment. I'm sure. Dad left $75,000 for the three. I did the math in my head. Lucas and Raphael's treatments, $20,000 each. Marina's course and therapy, $5,000. That leaves $30,000, which becomes $7,500, $2,500 for each, and the other $22,500, Lucas asked, goes to the Institute for Supporting Struggling Families. In Dad's name. Marina stopped crying. You're going to donate $22,500. I am. To families who really need it, not to people who waste opportunities. Lucas stood up, pacing back and forth. This is blackmail, Anna. No, Lucas. This is consequences. You guys had 15 years to be a real family. You chose to be leeches. Raphael picked up the paper with the clinic address again. How long do I have to decide? Until tomorrow at 8 p.m. After that, all the money goes to charity. Marina wiped her face with her shirt sleeve. And if we accept, will we still be siblings afterward? The question caught me off guard. I hadn't thought about the after. I don't know, Marina. That depends on who you become during treatment. But that night, one of them made a decision nobody expected. And that completely changed my opinion about the whole situation. 3 a.m, my phone rang on the nightstand, pulling me from deep sleep. Name on screen. Raphael. Hello? My voice came out hoarse. Anna, sorry for calling so late. Are you awake? I sat up in bed. Raphael never called me, much less at dawn. I am now. What's wrong? I can't sleep. I'm here thinking about what you said today, about Dad, about the coins. His voice was different, without that usual arrogance. Raphael, if you're calling to try to negotiate. No. He interrupted me. It's not that. It's just, Anna, I remembered something. From the day I took the coins, I stayed silent, waiting. Dad was in the living room when I went into his room. He saw me taking the little box. And you know what he did? What? Nothing. He just looked at me and lowered his head. Like he already expected that. My chest tightened. I could perfectly visualize that scene. Anna, I think he knew I was using drugs. He knew everything and still never kicked me out. Never called the police, never gave up on me. Raphael's voice started choking up. It was the first time in years I'd heard my baby brother talking about real feelings. And me? I stole his most precious things to buy Coke. Anna, what kind of monster does that? Raphael, no. Let me talk. I need to talk. He took a deep breath. Remember when we were kids and I broke Mom's vase? That blue one she brought from her honeymoon trip? I remembered. Raphael was 8, playing ball inside the house. Dad helped me glue the pieces back together, spent the whole afternoon with me, trying to make it look the same. And when Mom got home, he took the blame, said it was him who bumped into it. Why are you remembering this now? Because he always protected me, Anna. Always. And I repaid him by stealing from him. I got up from bed and went to the window. The street was empty, just streetlights illuminating the wet asphalt. Raphael, where are you? In his room, at Donna Miriam's house. She let me stay here tonight. Are you okay? A long pause. No, I'm not okay, Anna. It's been over 6 hours since I used anything and I'm feeling sick. But it's not just that. What else? I'm scared. Scared of dying. Scared of continuing like this. Scared of disappointing more people. For the first time in his life, Raphael was being completely honest with me. Anna, do you remember what Dad always said when we messed up? What? My children aren't bad people. They just make bad choices sometimes. Raphael sobbed. But I think I crossed the line, Anna. I think I became a bad person for real. You didn't, Raphael. I did. Good people don't steal from their own sick father. I sat in the armchair by the window. Raphael, listen. Do you really want to get treated? I do. I'm really scared. But I do. Why? Tell me the truth. Another long pause. Because I dreamed about him today. About Dad. How? He was in the kitchen, making that strong coffee he loved. When he saw me, he smiled and said, Raphael, you can still choose to be the man I always knew you could be. My eyes filled with tears. Then I woke up and thought, is there still time? Is it still possible to be the son he deserved to have? There's time, Raphael. There's always time. Anna, can I ask you something? Sure. Can you come with me to the clinic tomorrow? I know you have every right to hate me, but I'm scared to go alone. For the first time in 15 years, my baby brother was asking me for real help. Not money, not to cover up some lie. Real help. Of course I'll go, Raphael. Really? Really? I'll pick you up at 8 in the morning, Anna. Thank you. And sorry for everything. For the 15 years I was an asshole to you. Raphael. Yeah. Dad was right. You're not a bad person. You just made bad choices. He cried softly on the other end of the line. I'm going to try to be better, Anna. I swear I'm going to try. I know you will. After I hung up, I stayed awake for 2 more hours, looking out the window and thinking. Raphael had never been naturally mean. He was the family baby, spoiled, protected from all consequences. But deep down, there was still the 8-year-old boy in him who cried when he broke Mom's vase. At 5 in the morning, I made a decision I didn't even expect myself. I grabbed my phone and sent a message to Lucas and Marina. If you guys really want to get treated and start over, I'll be by your side. Not as someone who'll solve your problems, but as a sister. Think carefully about your decision. But at 8 in the morning, when I arrived at Donna Miriam's house, I discovered something about Raphael that completely changed my perspective on our entire family. 8 a.m. sharp. I stopped the car in front of Donna Miriam's house and honked lightly. The door opened before the second beep even finished. Raphael appeared in the doorway, but this wasn't yesterday's Raphael. He'd showered, was wearing clean clothes, hair combed. More impressive, he was carrying 2 suitcases. Good morning, he said, getting in the passenger seat. Good morning. 2 suitcases? The clinic said treatment is 6 months. I brought everything I still have during the drive. He stayed quiet, looking out the window. But when we were arriving at the clinic, he spoke. Anna, can I tell you something I never told anyone? Of course. Do you remember why you left home at 18? I remembered. I'd gotten a full scholarship to engineering in Oklahoma City. My parents said I should stay and study at the local university. I remember. Mom and Dad wanted me to stay. It wasn't just that. Raphael looked at me. Dad came to my room the night before you left. He cried, Anna. I stopped at the red light and looked at him. Cried why? He said you were special, different from us 3, that you were going to achieve great things in life, but our family would pull you down. My stomach churned. He said that. He did. And he asked me never to tell you, because he didn't want you to think he was kicking you out of the house. The light turned green, but I took a few seconds to accelerate. Dad knew Mom was jealous of you. He knew Lucas always saw you as competition. And he knew that I was going to become a burden in your life. Raphael, let me finish. He said, Raphael, your sister has a bright future. If she stays here, you guys will end up destroying her dreams without even realizing it. Just like you destroyed her childhood dreams. I stopped the car in the clinic parking lot, but neither of us got out. What childhood dreams? Raphael took a deep breath. Anna, you wanted to be a veterinarian, remember? You were 10 and always talked about taking care of animals. I vaguely remembered. There was a time I wanted to have a dog, wanted to work with animals. Mom said veterinary didn't make money, that you should think about something more serious. And you know why she said that? Why? Because Marina had said she wanted to be a teacher. And Mom thought if you also had a dream, Marina would get jealous. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Every time you showed interest in something, Mom found a way to discourage it. Not out of malice, but because she didn't want us three to feel inferior to you. What do you mean, Anna? You were always the smartest, the most responsible, the most everything. Mom was afraid that would create competition between us. Raphael turned completely toward me in the seat. So she created a system where you always stayed in the background, where your successes were normal and our failures were understandable. Tears started running down my face. Dad tried to compensate by giving you more responsibility, more independence, but it ended up looking like he demanded more from you and spoiled us more. Why didn't you ever tell me this? Because I was a child, Anna. And later, when I grew up, I was already at rock bottom, already using drugs, already disappointing everyone. And you had built a beautiful life away from us. He took my hand. Anna, when Dad died, you know what my first thought was? What? Now Anna's going to find out she was always his favorite daughter, that he put up with us out of obligation, but truly loved her, Raphael. And when you showed up yesterday with all that information about our lives, I thought, she's finally going to get revenge for all these years we treated her badly. He let go of my hand and looked at the clinic. But then you offered treatment, not revenge. Treatment. It's what you guys need. No, Anna. It's more than that. He looked me in the eyes. You offered us the same thing that always wanted to give. A second chance to be better people. We sat in silence for a few minutes, until he spoke again. Anna, can I ask you one more thing? Anything. When I get out of the clinic, in 6 months, can you teach me how to be a real brother? Because I never learned. I hugged Raphael for the first time in over 10 years. Of course I can. But when we got to the clinic reception, the nurse told me something about Raphael's medical history that explained a lot about our family and changed everything I thought about my childhood. The receptionist was a woman about 50, gray hair pulled back in a bun and a welcoming smile that must have consoled hundreds of desperate families. Good morning. You must be Raphael and Anna? That's right, I replied, while Raphael signed the first papers. Raphael, can you come with me for admission exams? Anna, can you stay here with me to arrange the financial part? He looked at me, still uncertain. Will you wait? I'll stay here until you're settled in. When Raphael disappeared down the hallway with a nurse, the receptionist indicated a chair next to her desk. Anna, right? You're the sister who's going to fund the treatment? I am. That's wonderful. We don't always see family members so involved. She picked up a thick folder. I need to ask some questions about Raphael's medical history to put together the most appropriate treatment plan. Of course. Has he had any psychiatric treatment before? Not that I know of. Any family history of depression? I thought for a few seconds. No, I don't think so. She wrote something down and continued. What about ADHD? Attention deficit? ADHD? I frowned. Why that question? Because Raphael mentioned in the phone screening that he always had trouble concentrating in school, that he felt different from other children. A movie started playing in my head. Raphael as a child, always restless, never able to finish homework, being called lazy by teachers. He was never diagnosed with anything. My parents always said he was just hyperactive. I see. The nurse made more notes. And when did the drug problem start? About 2 years ago, I think. No, dear. Much earlier than that. I looked at her, confused. What do you mean? Raphael told me he started drinking in adolescence to calm his mind. Then came marijuana. And only recently cocaine. My world stopped. He's been drinking since adolescence? You didn't know? No. I mean, I started putting pieces together. He was always kind of weird after 15. More withdrawn. More aggressive sometimes. But my parents said it was just a phase. The nurse looked at me with a gentle but concerned expression. Anna, can I say something? Without wanting to intrude on your family history? Sure. From what Raphael told me in screening, and from what you're telling me now, I